just the thought of every knee bowing before the Lord. There's one day that every knee will bow, every tongue confess from every nation. And one of the songs mentioned just how broad God's love is. We're going to learn a little bit about that broadness this morning. Joe Ellen is going to come and speak to us about the Sewing Academy ministry there in Kenya. And we're just looking forward to an update from her. I need to issue a personal word of thanks to Joe Ellen, as I was out this week with the death of a family member. She texted me early in the week. As soon as she heard, she said, "Hey, if you want me to step in on Sunday and talk about the Sewing Academy," and I said, "Okay, I'm going to take you up on that." And so thank you so much for doing that, and we just look forward to hearing from you. You come and share with us as you feel led, and we're just looking forward to what you have to say.
Well, thank you for allowing me to talk, and remind me, sometimes I will put this down so if you can't hear, just holler, and I'll get it back up to my face. Let's see. Okay. Went to Kenya. Well, to start, let me go back to the very beginning. My husband died unexpectedly in 2018, and I was pretty lost. And I had an opportunity to go on a teaching mission trip to a Christian school in Kenya in July of 2019. And through that process of getting ready to go there, I was led to create a sewing academy because of my love for quilting. So that's what I did. Was there for 2 weeks in 2019 setting everything up. Went back again in March of 2020, just when COVID was hitting, which was interesting. Had long meetings with the school administrators, the teachers, principal, deciding what's the next step for the academy. I was thinking maybe providing a scholarship to one worthy kid to go to a technical school to learn tailoring. Or maybe give a student a manual machine that was deserving. And the school administration decided they wanted to become a tech school. So that was the next plan. COVID hit, the school was shut down for a year. I was supposed to go back in 2021 in November. Ended up with COVID 10 days before we were supposed to fly out, so I didn't get to go, and that broke my heart. So my third trip over was last June. I was so excited. It had been 2 years since I'd been over there to see the kids. And I have to say it was not the best trip. I came home very disillusioned. A lot had changed in those 2 years. When we landed, we went to the school first, and the first place I went was up to the sewing room, and there weren't any students there that day, but Wakia was sitting there. She's the teacher I hired, who has become my daughter. The whole vibe in the school was different. Something was off, and I couldn't put my finger on it. We didn't get to stay at the school this time. Usually we would stay right at the school, where we felt very safe and secure. They have gates and walls and wardens, security guards, so we felt very secure there. This year we had to stay in an apartment about a half a mile from the school in the same suburb called Mikandani, which is considered to them a middle class suburb. To us, it would be worse than a slum. This apartment, this was the view from the balcony of the apartment. We were on the second floor. I will say I overcame my phobia of mice while there. And Carol overcame her phobia of cockroaches. It was pretty upsetting. Every time we left the apartment, in that little courtyard you see where there's a car there and then a little motorcycle, there would be Muslim men standing there with cell phones waiting for us to come down. They knew we were there. The Muslims are taking over the area. When I first went in 2019, it was 80% Christian, 20% Muslim. And now if it's 50-50, I'm being generous. They built mosques all over the area, and they have these loud speakers up on the spires of the mosques. And every day, starting at 4:30 in the morning, for 10 minutes, they just blast in their language. I don't know what they're saying. It's so loud you can't think. I mean, it is just, it hurts. It's so loud. And then throughout the whole day, every hour on the hour for 10 minutes, this is going on. Very disconcerting. Really didn't feel safe at all. Every time we left, a van would pull in, our drivers would pull in, and as soon as the van would show up, the men, there were usually one or two down there waiting, would get on their phones and text, and within minutes there'd be 25 to 30 men waiting for us. And so we were protected. Our drivers would come up. Usually there was one driver, now they have two, and there were only 3 of us in the team. So they would come and just protect us and get us into the vans, and then we were followed. You can't drive quickly in the streets there. I mean, it's just not like here. So these stream of people would follow us, and if we would get out to go into a store, they would follow us and videotape. Very disconcerting, very upsetting. I did not like it. And I kept telling Carol, who is the founder of E3 Kids, the nonprofit that I work through, I'm not safe. I feel we're being set up. And at first she was like, oh, you know, it's fine. And then after a few days, she's like, I'm starting to get the creeps too. So, this is Pastor Leonard Michigandi, his wife Tabitha, and their son Abel. We have 3 churches that we revolve through when we go there that we work closely with. This is who we went to church with the first Sunday we were there. Great people. They're going to factor in a little bit later in my story. But Abel is one of my sewing students and has a passion for sewing. And so I gifted him with his own manual machine to take home so that he could practice and sew. So he's my little buddy. We spent one day at the second campus of Royal Kids Comprehensive School, which is called Jammu. And it's in a remote part of Mombasa, more rural, more poor. And we had taken over boxes and boxes of the little dresses that you see the little girls wearing that the Rotary Club in Lorain County donated to me to take over. It was a lot of fun. The kids were great. Carol had meetings with the administrators of the school, so I spent most of my day going from class to class, teaching the kids the Acts method of praying that you taught us a few years ago. They loved it. When I go over in November, I'm going to print off little cards and give them out to the kids because they kept telling me, you can't remember, we're not going to remember this, so I want to make sure they can remember. I got to leave the school. Wakio met me there, my daughter, and we got to leave and spend the rest of the day at her apartment. So I had bodas pick us up. These are a form of transportation over there, just like a taxi cab here. You rent them 50 cents maybe to get you 5 miles. A lot of fun, up and down the hills. That's one of my better memories. This is the reason we couldn't stay at the school this year. This is Mama Cheryl. The mamas over there, mom, the term is a term of respect. And Mama Cheryl was one of the mamas that takes care of the school. She does the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry. She takes care of the kids. Well, she was dying. She had cancer. And so she was staying at the school, and her daughter was there taking care of her, and we felt it would be too disruptive to her care for us to be there. So we didn't stay there. I was fortunate. I got to spend an afternoon with her. This is one of the few times she got out of bed while we were there, but I was able to pray with her. Very special woman. I'm going to cry. She passed away 2 days after we left. A lot of good memories. So one of the things we do is spend, depending on how long we're there, at least 2 days taking food down into the slums, either 40 or 50 bag pound bags of rice and beans and oil. One other thing I can't remember. And the way these people live, you just cannot imagine. You see the pictures on National Geographic, and this is not real. People really don't live like this. They do. Dirt shacks, dirt floors, mud. Some have no ceilings or just have a tarp over the ceiling. No running water, no bathrooms. They cook outside. And we went to one that was just heart-wrenching. Children sleeping on the floor. They didn't have mattresses. And it just breaks my heart to see how blessed we are here. So the three of us chipped in and we bought 3 mattresses and had them sent down to the house. There's no cars to get there. You're up and down hills and paths. I can't even think of anything here that even relates other than a landfill maybe that hasn't been smoothed out where it's just trash and you're up and down these trails. So this is the only way they had to get the mattresses to the house. They put them on a boda and good for them. There is a guy in the front of the bike steering. But I love their ingenuity. Where there's a will, there's a way, and they'll figure it out. We did get to go on safari, which usually we do at the end of the trip. This year we did safari almost first. So I just have a couple pictures. I finally got to see the flamingos. Had a close encounter with an elephant. I don't know if you can tell, but it's an elephant walking up to the table. We all had to leave, and that was like 3 levels down. We had to go up to the top level. We didn't know why the elephant was there, and at any moment he could have just stormed through and destroyed everything. It was pretty interesting. And then I did get to see the wildebeest migration, which is something I had wanted to see. And that brings me back to the school. I didn't take any pictures at the school this year. After we got back from safari, the rest of our time was spent at the school. The whole vibe at the school was changed. And I thought, well, maybe it's because they were shut down from COVID. Not nearly as many kids. There used to be 420 kids at the big campus and 180 kids at the little campus. The little campus is still doing fine. I think they're up to 210 students now. But the Mick and Danny campus, the main campus, is failing. And the good teachers are leaving. Students, they're just not there, and there's no joy. And there used to be so much joy with the kids. I figured out what was going on the first meeting we had. There is a new school administrator there named Mr. Alicia. The guy gave me the creeps. He was a high school teacher the first 2 years I was there, so I never really met him. And then Mr. Moses, who was the administrator when I set up the academy, left to go to another school, and Mr. Alicia took over. Talk about meeting somebody that makes the hair on your arm stand up. I mean, this was the guy. He would never answer a question. He would always just kind of smooth around it. And then I found out he was a politician. He was running for office. I don't know what office. I don't even know if he won because I really didn't care after that. We feel he's the reason the school is failing. Carol Turner through E3 Kids worked with the school for 12 years. She would, on an ongoing basis, send $10,000 to $15,000 a month to this school. She was paying the teachers' salaries. She was paying for food to feed the kids. The kids are there from 6:30 in the morning till 6 at night. And so they get 3 meals at the school, and it was $450 a week just to feed the kids. She would sponsor students. It's all tuition there, and they have to wear uniforms and buy books, so she would sponsor 75 students, pay for everything. And with the old administration, she would get receipts when she'd send money of where her money was going. With this new administration, she wasn't getting receipts, so she wasn't sure where her money was going. And we feel now this Mr. Alicia is skimming, doing something. The kids weren't being fed. Parents were pulling their kids out of the school. Caning is happening in the school, which is not illegal in Kenya, but it's not a practice that is done anymore. But he is caning children for minor infractions. In some of the meetings, I started questioning. I would ask a question, he wouldn't answer. And I said, well, you didn't answer my question, would you please answer my question? And he would slide around it again. And I was getting angry, and I could see he was getting angry. And then he blurts out, well, Joellen, your sewing academy it's got the highest ranks for a sewing class in the country, which I was really proud of. He said, but your students aren't passing their exams. And I said, what exams? No one ever told us about exams. Well, in 2016, the Kenyan Ministry of Education started a home sciences protocol that all schools have to follow, and sewing is part of that. And nobody told us. I had been there 2 times, set up the academy, had a 3-hour meeting the second time. Nobody said a word about this protocol. There were books, there were written tests that the ministry had devised, and no one told us. And I started really seeing red. I asked him, why weren't we told? And of course, he wasn't the administrator at the time, so that was his out for that. But he said, you have to follow the protocol. And I said, well, absolutely we will. And Keo and I went downtown that evening and bought all the books for the kids, and she started studying and learning and changing her curriculum. But we learned that our original plan when we opened the academy was to teach the kids to sew things, make products that they could sell, that would go towards their tuition and towards Wakio's salary. And at the point where the school would become self-sufficient, I wanted to start another task, plumbing or masonry or something. We learned that plan can never happen with the protocol. The kids, through this protocol, cannot learn, they cannot sell anything. It's just a strict teaching thing. So I felt very deceived, very disillusioned. Never did get answers. I kept asking, why wasn't I told? I want to know why I wasn't told. Was it a mistake? Was it deceit? And I kept pushing, and Carol Turner finally pulled me aside and said, Joellen, you'll never get your answer. In their culture, you can be upset all you want. They don't feel responsible to answer your questions. It's like, it's your problem, you're upset. And they shut down. You can see it in their face. They just totally shut down. So I had to let that go and prayed and realized, well, I am still teaching them to sew, which is what God led me to do. So I'm going to keep doing it. But I left very, very disillusioned, very confused. Just seeing the downfall of the school, the joy is gone from the kids. Hearing about the caning of these little kids that don't deserve it was very upsetting to me, and I came back. I kind of withdrew. We all got sick while we were over there. I was the first one to get sick, and for me it was only a day, and I missed one day of taking food down to the slums, which was disappointing. But I think I had COVID because I came back smelling a septic tank for like 3 months. I felt like I was sitting in a septic tank. So I kind of removed myself from everybody, and I just wanted to be home. And then thinking about these issues with the academy, and something just wasn't sitting right. And I kept in touch with Wakio. We talk every week. And she finally admitted to me a few months ago that she does not like teaching the protocol. She hates it. She wants to teach kids to sew. The protocol includes crocheting, knitting, ironing, which she teaches in the class, hand stitching, which she teaches in the class, but not so much machine stitching. She wants to teach kids to become tailors, and that's not what the protocol calls for. So, through a lot of prayer, a lot of tears, a lot of meetings with Carol Turner in Virginia via the phone, and while I was over there, I've made a really tough decision. But I feel it's the right decision for the academy, for Wakio and for me. I am going to pull most of the academy, most of the machines out of the school. I'm going to leave one manual machine and then scissors and needles and thread and other supplies that they need so that they can find a teacher and continue with the protocol. And I'm going to set Wakio up with her own sewing academy. That's been her dream, to have an academy. And we're working through that right now. She's ecstatic. She's just beyond so grateful. And it's just so little. To me, it's just so little, but for her, it's her whole life. I have to walk a very fine line. I do not trust this school administrator. The founders of the school, Grace and Nagab Kia, are putting all their faith into him. They don't want to discuss anything, go to Mr. Alicia. So I feel I can't go to them and talk to them about my concerns. So the plan is, at this point, we're going over towards the end of November when school is out. Well, they will be having their national exams there, but the bulk of the kids will be gone. And we're hoping that the founders of the school are off-site at their home up north on the beach, that they won't be there. I'm going to request a meeting with them, and we'll offer to go to their place so that this meeting doesn't happen on campus. And while I'm there explaining to them what I'm doing, I'll have somebody at the school removing all the equipment. Luckily right now the door to the academy is locked, but our fear is there's about 10,000 Kenya shillings in that room. And if they realize, we're afraid that everything's going to disappear someday and be sold. I just do not trust this man. It's been very hard for me. I'm not a quitter, I'm a fighter. It's very hard for me to decide to walk away from the school. There will still be a sewing academy at the school, but I frankly want nothing to do with that at this point. Once I walk out of the school, I don't plan to go back. The pastor that I showed you earlier, the Michiganese, Tabitha, is a counselor, and her dream is to have a women's empowering center. So Carol Turner is considering going into partnership with her and starting a women's empowerment center, and if that works out, the Sewing Academy will be involved in that, and Wakio will have a room there, and she'll have her own academy. So I'm empowering Wakio and giving her a future. I'm going to commit to paying her salary and rent for wherever we put the academy for probably a year, to give her time to get it going. And then it's going to be hers to make the decisions. It's been tough. I'm getting older. I'm going to be 72 next month. The trip over is hard. The travel is hard. The conditions there are hard. No running water, no hot water. You got to watch what you eat. It's time for me to back off. So I'm thinking this trip in November will probably be my last trip there, which is heartbreaking because I love it there. But seeing the changes, I don't feel safe there. And I'm going to continue the mission of teaching them to sew. It's going to be Wakio's, but I'm always going to be there to help her and guide her, and maybe at some point move on to something else somewhere. I will always have a tie with Kenya, but it's time for me to say goodbye to the school especially. I'll miss the kids. It's heartbreaking. It's been really hard for me. I've done a lot of crying, a lot of praying, but I feel that this is what God wants me to do. Still going to teach people to sew. It's just not going to be at the school. So kind of bittersweet for me, but I felt since the church has supported me in the mission, I felt honor bound to explain to everybody what's going on. But I'm proud, and I know Wakio will make a great go of it, and I'll always be involved with it somehow, and I'm waiting to see what my next journey is going to be. So if anybody has any questions or anything at all, please. Oh, Betsy.
Question. So donations, are they still going through E3?
They're still going through E3 Kids at this point. It was. I will say Carol Turner was over in Kenya for 2 months in January and February. Was not treated well by the school at all, and talk about biting the hand that feeds you. After she got back, this administrator sent her a letter saying pretty much you're not welcome to come back. She has responded with a letter that I've asked to see because the sewing machines were included in that letter and I haven't seen it yet. So that's part of my decision. They're gonna do this to her, they're gonna do it to me at some point, and I need to protect Wikio, and I need to protect the investment over there of the machines. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, as I sat and listened to the challenges that you're facing and that E3 Kids face, and that the local folks are facing, the struggles and the challenges, that's not really unusual on the mission field. I can think of many stories similar where they've had to create multiple partnerships to find the right one. And so we're going to continue to pray. And I love the partnership that we have through the E3 Kids. And I'd like to see us be able to continue to support what you're doing. And so we appreciate you coming and sharing. But boy, when you hear a story like that, you may leave a little discouraged, just like Joe Allen felt. But be encouraged, because that is not an uncommon occurrence in the mission field. It's just hard to figure out who can you trust, who should you align with, who is really operating in the same kindred spirit that you are. And it takes a while to build those types of relationships. The bottom line is that our struggle is not against flesh and blood. There is an enemy who is at work in this world. And even in some of the ministries that are claiming to serve God. And so we need to be aware of that. We should even expect that, maybe even consider it a confirmation that we're doing something right when that kind of opposition is coming against us. But it's definitely a reminder that the world needs Jesus. We're going to close with one more song, and it's just a song that says just that. I'm going to ask the praise team to come on up. But it's a song that says just that. Our world needs Jesus. And it's a new song, but it's an easy one for you to pick up. But I hope that we will just allow this song to kind of be our closing prayer this morning. I'll ask you to come and stand up, and let's join together and sing.
When our homes are hit by heartbreak, let your presence meet us there. When the pain seems overwhelming, we hold on to you. When the streets are torn by chaos, we will be your hands and feet. When the darkness brings division, may we be your light. 'Cause we know our world needs Jesus. We know silence. We will be your blessed peace. When the headlights scream injustice, may we shout your name. 'Cause we know our world needs Jesus. We know our world needs freedom. So give us eyes to see the hurting and the broken. And let our lives align with every word you say. We know our world needs Jesus. We know our world needs freedom. So give us eyes to see the hurting and the broken. And let our lives align with every word you say. So let every heart turn to Jesus. Let every voice sing of your great name. Let all the earth know your freedom. 'Cause we believe no more. So let every heart turn to Jesus. Let every voice sing of your great name. Let all the earth know your freedom. We believe for more. We believe for more. Our world needs Jesus. We know that our world needs freedom. So give us eyes to see the hurting and the broken. And let our lives align with every word you say. We know our world needs Jesus. We know that our world needs freedom. So give us eyes to see the hurting and the broken. And let our lives align with every word you say. 'Cause I know that I need you, Jesus. And I know this heart needs healing. So for my knees I lift this prayer to you, my Savior. For my life and for the world, you're the answer, Jesus.
This world needs Jesus. We don't even necessarily have to go halfway around the world to find that. There are people right here in Sandusky, Ohio, who need Jesus. But God calls us to meet people's needs here and there. And that's why we go. God bless you. You have a great week, and we will see you next Sunday.